more landmine. Use that to protect your property.
Welcome back to the Dank Swamp Rebellion. Did that sound like Davy Jones?
I was about to say, that's close.
Welcome back to the Dank Swamp Rebellion.
See, if you want to try to sound like Bill Nye, it's like, welcome back, Captain Jack Sparrow.
So today we're talking about a super interesting topic. We're talking about how the Jews have been held down by the Republicans for so many years.
I did not do that homework assignment. What the hell? That is not the topic. You told me to research.
You instantly hurt Phil's feelings. Phil's feelings.
What the
What's
fuck?
wrong, Phil?
I am not prepared for this podcast. If that's the subject of conversation.
Surprise. This is a test of your limberness.
This is a test of your brain's agility.
I cannot get past my gut in terms of limberness here. When I bend over, I can barely touch my toes.
I didn't say lumber. I said limber.
Oh, okay. We're
He
good.
has a lower limber support.
It's like a tripod. I can
don't
just
have any
kickstand it.
He doesn't have any lumbar either. Lumbar support's important.
Well, like in my back now, I got plenty of lumbar support. Spinal column.
Phil is built like the letter S.
I already just thought of another shirt for Phil.
Oh, Jesus
and I like
Christ!
That every single shirt that features someone, it's only Phil.
You're so vain. You think the song
Phil's
is
popular.
about you.
He is,
don't
man.
you,
Especially his death.
don't
People
you?
like to see you die
Whenever Phil
over and over.
dies, it's really good.
I'm not exactly prepared. So, what are you guys talking about today?
Oh, it's gonna be like that.
Because I thought we were talking about manic Jews that were being led by a Republican army.
We're not that far off.
Okay.
So why don't you let's lay them on and Phil.
Well, the topic of our homework assignment by a fearless leader here, Cody. Allegedly, we're supposed to be talking about how the KKK was founded by the Democrats and how they implemented Joe Crow laws.
No, Joe Crow is not a person. It
Jim
was
Crow.
Jim Crow.
Joe Crow, Joe Blow, Jimmy.
Joe Crow?
Jim Bob.
Is the little dude that hangs out in the crow's nest in a pirate ship. My name is Joe Crow. I see shit.
Sounds like a good gym buddy. That's a good spotter, but will leave you hanging.
And he's actually blind. We just put him up there so he can feel good about himself. But that's Joe Crow. What about Jim Crow?
Jim Crow. So we're going to be talking about Jim Crow laws and the KKK Foundation and how those philosophies have infiltrated both the Democratic Party as well as Antifa and other hate groups.
So you're telling me that the KKK was funded by the Democrats? Is that what you're saying right now?
Funded and founded, yes.
I thought the Democrats was the organization that freed slaves.
No, that's the Republican Party. The party of Lincoln freed the slaves with the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yeah, but Lincoln was a Democrat.
No, he was the first Republican.
That's not what I was taught in history.
Okay, so the same year after the Civil War ended in 1865, actually on December 24th, the foundation of the Ku Klux Klan happened. But here's the thing. The Klan has always been around before the official inauguration, if you will. It was actually like a country club, if you will, of slave owners, masters, bounty hunters for runaway slaves, and or other vigilante groups.
Our dudes that just had straight jungle fever.
Well, to each their own.
That just comes with the territory.
You know what's funny, though? Black people are offended by a lot of things. But if you say you got jungle fever,
they like that shit.
They like that shit.
But if you say, however, I will interject and suggest that now if you say you got jungle love, more standard time.
Not jungle rot.
No,
that's
jungle
a
love.
totally different thing.
That's not
jungle
good idea.
love.
That's more of like a Charlie Sheen in Platoon type thing.
Dude, we just redid the studio here now. I'm seeing bushes and plants all over the place. When you say Charlie Sheen and Platoon, I'm like, where the fuck is he gonna pop out
Every
now?
time you say Bush now, I think about Pam Grier back in the 80s.
You motherfuckers are so ADD. Because, I was pretty interested in what the fuck Phil was saying just literally 30 seconds
Put the drink
ago.
down.
Sorry, man.
Put the drink down, Cody.
So
Put the
we have
drink
a
down.
lot going on. We added to our studio a whole 32 square feet. I did a lot of work in here. And we have a lot of things to look at now, so we're squirreling it. And sorry, Tyler, I didn't mean to get off course.
No,
So back to the KKK.
Yes. Sounds like a angry rap group.
So you're saying that the KKK was just a country club group of old fuckers that, really enjoyed having their life, right? That at the time.
Yeah, it's like they're essentially protecting their livelihood, and it's just basically a collective group of, of slave owners, bounty hunters, buyers, sellers, and traders, if you will. And I hate to sound like that, but it was the sign of the times. But
how did it come from the Democrat Party?
How did the correlation between the Klan and the Democratic Party come about?
It goes back to the time of right before the Civil War. You have to understand, you had a lot of Southern Democrat parties, which made up a lot of the Confederate States of America, which made up a lot of the Confederate soldiers as well too. A lot of the members of the Klan, when it first formed, after all the other vigilante groups there afterwards within that same country club, were of Confederate soldiers that happened to be Southern Democrats. Now, their task and mission statement at this point, the African Americans are now freed slaves. Their mission statement is essentially to intimidate and or kill any Republican. Now, that, and keep in mind, the largest Republican vote at the time were actually African Americans.
That's what I was about to say. Weren't like some of the first Republicans actually like they were African American people?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I want to say it was.
But just as many black soldiers fought in the Civil War as white.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't understand that. Like it was blacks, whites, and Indians alike. Because even Indians were sold into slavery at some point. There were parts of the country where they went in, took over their tribes, sold those guys into slavery, and did the same thing and killed them off if they wouldn't.
Well, here's the thing. I'm glad you brought that up, especially with the enslavement and of the native populace in this country, especially during the slave trade. A lot of them ran away and freed themselves, and they had a distinct advantage over the African American slave was simply because they actually knew the land better. They knew the terrain.
It makes sense. Yeah, they've been living.
And so whenever like a colonist, if you will, the whites would come in and try to enslave the native groups, it would only last for a while because they would run, they would hide, and they would go elsewhere, or they would retaliate because they know the lay of the land. Unfortunately, the African slave, they did not have that knowledge. All they knew was,
bust ass.
Pretty much.
Can you imagine how a slave must have felt if they busted loose from a plantation? Out in the wild, in Africa, they're used to dealing with things like cheetahs, lions. They get out into the woods out here, and next thing you know, there's like a black bear. They never seen a lion like that before. They didn't know what the fuck it was. They didn't have Wikipedia,
this
Google, and YouTube.
This is the weirdest fucking lion I've ever seen in my life. Look at it.
They're like, listen to that pussy-ass roar that thing's got. It's like,
bitch, yeah. I'm going to eat your honey.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, it must have been fucking weird, man. You come to a country, a land that's not your own, and it's just odd to you,
I mean, I would imagine just like anyone who did not know that the KKK was funded by the Democratic Party is odd too.
But that's not true, though.
That's not the first time.
That's not what I was told.
Well, no, that's not what anyone was
CNN told me otherwise.
Yeah,
well, I'm
not sponsored.
I'm going to tell you otherwise as well, too. Now, if you don't believe that, just look at the New Orleans massacre of 1866. The Klan went into a Republican National Convention held in New Orleans.
That's hurtful.
Well, the truth hurts in the history,
What happened?
So essentially, the Klan went in to the Republican National Convention, and I don't have the exact figures, but several were wounded, others were killed as well too. I'm actually trying to look that up right now so I can give you the exact figures. They went in with the task to essentially intimidate and disrupt as much as they can, because that's the mission statement of the Klan, was to essentially disempower the Republican Party out of the southern states. They didn't want them there. They wanted to try to hold on to that power within those states, but it ain't gonna happen, and this is all because of the Reconstruction after Sherman's famed March to the Sea. So
I mean, the facts don't lie. unless they come in from someone who doesn't want you to know. So your school teacher, Cody, didn't want you to know that because probably she didn't fucking know that either.
Fuck you, Miss Callahan.
And that's the thing about knowledge. You think you have it. You always do. But what's real and what's not is never going to be determined by...
My mother and I had the same conversation night before last because she was trying to convince me that COVID is not a political entity, that it has nothing to do with politics. That because a person from the CDC came to her office where she works at this doctor's office and told them something, that was the facts.
And that's the truth. Yeah.
That narrative, and I tried to explain to her, and she wasn't having it.
I mean, you have same thing with the topic of the day as
all right, full circle this shit. Let's go. Come on.
You have two separate trains of thoughts that either one thing is A or one thing is B. There's a good fucking chance that it's A and B or neither. So you fighting with A and B all your fucking life, and all of a sudden your Earth gets fucking shattered because a huge asteroid comes from space and nothing matters anymore. No lives matter.
Fuck you, Mom.
But on the serious side, so the KKK, it's almost hard to say out loud because you feel guilty to even utter the fucking words of the organization itself because it's fucking so much. It's a front for straight up murder and bloodshed and hate and all this garbage. But the little known fact is that the KKK are just the guys in the front row of the big picture.
They're the smoke screen.
They are the ones that are taking the fall for the big guy. And I'll fuck you up a little bit more with this because if I don't die after this episode, because I would imagine a few listeners who are involved in this kind of shit, the KKK is the front lines for the Freemasons.
I was about to say, the correlation between the Freemasons and the KKK is uncanny. And my grandfather, who was a Freemason, rest his soul, he passed on his Masonic ring to me. But my grandmother had the good sense to pawn that ring to get me a guitar, my first guitar. But the thing was that my grandfather told me stories about when he was in the Masons, rituals that would take place. And this was before the times of YouTube. This was before the times of Dateline NBC. And it was along the same lines of things I've seen about the Klan. And it was not only, it's always on a religious premise. It always has some kind of weird sexual intent with violence incurred because that's the cleansing after. Right. And it always has something to do with children. And so my grandfather, when he got exposed to these things, he was scared of it and he got out. He was so early in, they let him out.
Yeah, and there's levels that you go through. So you could be, like level 10 versus...
But once you get to a certain point, there's no turning back.
Yeah.
Because he was told that if you go further and you decide you back out after this, we'll find you.
It's over.
We're going to cut out your intestines and we're going to feed them back to you.
Yeah.
That's some good eating right there.
So...
And the Klan has the same type of rituals that they do, the same type of inductions, the same. I watched a video one time. It's an old video. They have a big teepee, and the Klan, they're all in lines, and they're chanting and being a bunch of fucking dicks. And you hear inside of this teepee when they light it, this blood-curdling scream that will just chill your bones. And after the video, it is said that it just so happens that it's suspected that the Klan members that were there were all members of Congress.
It goes deep. The blood runs very far. And
it's a very long bloodline.
Dude, and that's another part I wanted to get to. So if you're involved in a group like that now, there's a very good chance that it's because of your heritage. Or it's because your dad did it, or your grandpa did it, or your grandpa's grandpa did that. And it's part of your family. So you're not even thinking about the mentality of the overall organization. You're just following your family's footsteps. And you
learn behavior.
Exactly. So you're literally taking part in something that's way bigger than you know. And you're fueling a fire that you don't even feel or see or hear or anything like that, right? So I think a big piece of this is if you go to a lot of their symbols and imagery that the Freemasons used and the Nazis, and you go back with the KKK too, a lot of that lines up. All their symbols and stuff, they changed through time, of course, to what you know now, but their origins of a lot of their symbols they used, a lot of their mentalities, it's all been really cohesive enough to where it's more than just a chance. You know, there's a lot more to that story than will ever meet the eye. And I can't say that I know enough that I could say, hey, look, take my word for it. This is absolute truth. But if you look into it more yourself, you can make that decision for yourself. So the moral of the story is look beyond what's happening in front of your eyes. There's a lot more to it. There's a whole third dimension that you will never see unless you look for it.
So I got a question for you.
We have answers.
How close do you think the most local, active Ku Klux Klan chapter is?
From
right here?
From right here.
From our studio?
Dude,
Less than 20 miles.
I was going to say fucking 5, straight up.
Right there in Converse, Louisiana.
That's fucking nuts.
Right there. Now, if anybody who's from around here knows that the area that we're talking about is on the river, and there's quite a few little towns, the entire area that's around Converse is predominantly black. And then Converse sits there, and they got the biggest active Ku Klux Klan chapter in the state nestled right there.
What does that tell you?
That's insane.
What does that fucking mean?
That's insane.
It means we got some burning to do. Burn that motherfucker down.
They're called the Aryan Nation's Knights of the Ku Klux Klan.
So, okay, Phil wants to go burn down their clan.
Loyal white knights.
What makes you better than go and kill all these people that kill other people? What difference does that make? I'm genuinely asking you.
Lower population.
No, but what separates you from them?
I thought you were a fucking libertarian.
And
I'm a realist, damn it. When it comes to a bunch of hate mongering like pieces of shit, I feel like Brad Pitt in that movie Inglourious Bastards. I want me 100 Nazi scalps, and I want my scalps.
But
I want some fucking hoods, and I want some scalps in them hoods.
I mean, yeah, I feel you, but you're feeding violence with violence.
Well, but getting back to what you were saying, it's the whole point of what are you learned, right?
Yeah.
It's a learned value that you have been handed down throughout your heritage and throughout your DNA. So very few people, when they're growing up, they go through puberty, and they're starting to have thought process for themselves, get pricked in their heart to say, what my family and my parents and my grandparents has taught me, there's something fucky about this, and it's time for me to start thinking for myself. A very small percentage of the population thinks that way. It's no different than when I used to sit in church as a child and listen to the rhetoric that was spewed from the pulpit, and I was ingrained this. This is the truth. This is the truth. Well, why do I have so many questions about the truth?
Yeah.
And the same goes for this, is that just because you're taught something, your entire life doesn't mean that it's right or that it's even factual.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you're living a facade. They have if you really look at videos of actual footage from Ku Klux Klan members, and I'm not talking about whoever the Grand Dragon is or whatever, or whoever their lead people are. I'm talking about just that regular running. They're a bunch of idiots. These are low IQ people.
No shit. Possibly
right?
inbred.
Easily influenced, easily brainwashed. And that's how that works. It's all a matter of numbers at that point. And so that lineage will go on and on. The idiocracy and illiteracy in those people will breed down into their children and magnify in their children, and they're just going to breed more and more and more of them.
So take what you just said, replace Ku Klux Klan, and add Antifa, and you have the exact same principle.
That's the exact same thing.
Just minus the bullshit college degree.
As easy it is to think that this person of influence can make me do something, just tells you how much Play-Doh they have in their head. And the more you're fucking woke up to this shit, the more that you give a fuck about your surroundings, the more you'll understand that you don't need to be played. You don't have to be that motherfucker out there that's just a frontline soldier. You don't have to do that unless you want to, and in which case, by all means, follow your heart. If you really think you're a fucking Klans member, then go be the best goddamn Klans member you ever fucking thought. I'm serious. I'm like...
Follow your heart.
Follow your heart.
FIFA goes west.
If you truly believe that's the way that your life needs to go, then go fucking do it, but don't cry about it. Don't fucking say shit about anything that happens to you because you chose that life.
And if you go after some cat on the street just because he's black or just because he's Mexican or just whatever with ill intent to harm him, and you just so happen to fuck with the wrong motherfucker,
that's it.
And he capture your ass, that's on you.
And I hope it happens. I don't want this.
It's coming to you, because that's the thing. You can do so many things, and sooner or later, you're going to fuck with the wrong person. You will have it.
That's it, man. And look, I'm not condoning the shit. I'm not. But I'm saying that if you're going to do something, go all in. Don't be a brainwashed fucking idiot about it.
Right.
If you're going to believe in something, do your whole shit about it. It's your whole life now. Don't fucking cry about the repercussion that comes to it.
Don't harm other people, period.
No.
Not sponsored.
Violence does not equal violence. It doesn't have to. You can't fight it. Don't fight fire with fire.
Thank you for listening to Dank Swamp Rebellion. Check us out on dsrtalks.com.